Hello there. A very good morning to you all and a warm welcome to KFM VPN. That's Views, People and News this Saturday. I'm your host, Judith Atim. Well, today we're looking ahead. The political landscape is already shifting, and in the background, the drums for the 2025-26 political campaigns are starting to beat. But the question on our minds this morning is, what are the key issues, the trends and factors that will define and influence this election cycle? What will voters be thinking about when they step into the ballot box? Well, to help us dissect this issue, we have a fantastic panel of guests with us in the studio. One of them is retired Major Awich Pola, the Director for External Affairs at the NRM Secretariat. A very good morning to you, Major.
Good morning, Judith, and morning to my colleagues and listeners.
Also viewers, yes, because we're also streaming on our audio-visual platform.
Thank you so much.
Yes, good to have you on the show. We also have with us Bernard Chankara, Dr. Bernard Chankara, who is a public policy analyst. He's also a member of the Democratic Front Party and an MP aspirant for Kelak South. Good morning, Bernard.
Pleasure having me. Good morning, and good morning, listeners.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
And Dr. Judith Nalukwago, NUP Secretary for Professionals. She's also the flag bearer for the LC5 Woman Councillor, Machindia West. Good morning, Judith.
Good morning to you, and good morning to all the listeners.
A warm welcome to you all. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for making it to the show this morning. We're waiting for one last guest to join us. I'll be letting you know who it is as soon as he gets here. Welcome everyone. So let's dive right in. The 2021 election was defined by certain issues: the economy, youth, unemployment, the rise of a new political force. At the time, of course, that was the wave of the NUP. So I think I'm going to start with you, Judith. Looking at the current state of affairs, I'll start with you, and of course, Bernard, since you represent the demographic of the youth. Looking at the current state of affairs, what do you see as some of the most significant issues that will influence the campaigns this time around?
Thank you so much, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in. I'm happy to be back here for us to discuss these issues that Ugandans are facing, and also to discuss our different presidential campaigns. 8 of them were nominated, and all of them gave us a snippet into what their manifestos are going to look like. It's very important that we Ugandans listen to them, give all of them equal opportunity to speak to us, listen to them, so that, after 5 years when we elect someone, we have to hold them accountable to what they have told us, to what their manifesto is. So if you do not listen to them, you will not understand what they are about. As NUP, we are excited because our party is a mainly youth-led party. So we are excited that the people we are speaking to, almost 80% of the Ugandans are below the age of 35, i.e. they are youth. So it's an opportunity for us to talk to these young people, given the challenges they are facing, many of which include lack of jobs. Many of them don't have jobs. Many have learned. Right now we have so many degree holders compared to years and years before. But they find themselves in a situation where they don't have employment. They're not employed. Or they find themselves in a situation where the education system has not set them up for the 21st century challenges, and also them being able to create their own employment opportunities. That is also a problem, the education system we have, because as you can see, they're just revising it since the colonialists left. They're just revising and maybe integrating the new curriculum. We have challenges of students who left S4 last year and are now in S5, and they use the new curriculum in their O-level, but now in their A-level they're using in fact they don't have a curriculum in A-level, so they're just there for vibes, and parents are paying school fees. So those are some of the challenges that we want to listen to from our presidential candidates. And I feel like the issue of employment will be very, very important moving into this election period, because as you can see that the previous report of national development has that the youth between the age of 18 to 30 years, 5.25 million youth Ugandans are seated at home. They're not in employment, they're not in education, they're not anywhere, they're just seated at home without anything they are doing. 5.25, that's a very huge number. So that is going to be a key aspect. Whoever does it better, does it well, is going to, I think, get the support of the youth.
All right, thank you very much. Let me also take this opportunity to acknowledge the arrival of my final guest, Honorable Jack Sabiti, National Chairperson of the Forum for Democratic Change Party. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning.
You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'll give you a moment to catch your breath and enjoy a cup of coffee while we've just actually started, so we'll be coming to you shortly. Bernard, you're also representing that demographic. Let's talk about the issues that you also think will be deciding factors for this campaign. Looking at it from, of course, I know there are issues that could be specific to regions, but there are also cross-cutting areas. What are the issues that you think will actually determine the 2026, the outcome of the elections?
Thank you very much. I think for quite a number of years, the young people have not had a fair opportunity to have either a conversation or to serve this country at different levels. This political decision or these elections really presents the young people and the youth an opportunity to change directions. As you are well aware, that the young people since time immemorial have demonstrated that they can actually determine the direction of any election. Now, we're coming from a background where Uganda constitutes about 70%
or more, slightly more, yeah.
Actually, below the age of 30. I certainly, of course, a little bit above that. But this election is very critical for the young people, and key to it is the issues of jobs. Now, Uganda's economy has not been able to really create employment opportunities to the young people vis-a-vis the rate at which our young versus the population of the young people. So I think Uganda creates about, if I'm not mistaken, about 170,000 jobs thereabout annually. And yet, when you look at the population of Ugandan youth, it's quite alarming. And so key to this election is the issues of job. And when we are discussing about employment opportunities and jobs, we are interested to understand a key element of jobs recruitment, and that is meritocracy. Now, if you have been in this country for quite some time, then you realize that the extent to which meritocracy is appreciated in jobs recruitment has been really, really demotivating. Many young people actually not had opportunity to find employment, not because they are not qualified, but necessarily because they are either being discriminated against or not being given opportunity to serve. And of course, like my colleague here mentioned earlier, I think we have quite a number of young people that have attained a certain level of education, and true to it, they really deserve to serve this country. But unfortunately, this government has not been able to operate on meritocracy. When you look at other countries that have been able to do it quite well over time and be able to catapult into sort of a stable economy in which the young people have opportunity to strive, they have really zeroed down on meritocracy. Do you have the qualification? Do you have the right character? Do you have the integrity? And unfortunately, when you go through our public service system, you don't see these things. And so the best people, the best young people that should be able to have the opportunity to serve this country are actually on the streets of Kampala. And then we have the others, of course, struggling to survive, of course. That aside, the president, I think, through youth skilling, has been able to come out with a number of programs that in an attempt to sort of absorb or reskill or retool the young people. Unfortunately, again, that is why I'm saying the meritocracy and probably favoritism has eaten up our systems. And so many young people, the president runs around. I think the good thing the NRM colleagues are here. There is a lot of young people opportunities that I think sort of the president came up with. I don't know whether it was research-based innovation, but there's a lot of youth skilling activities going around the country.
Bernard, do you feel these youth skilling initiatives are actually translating into something tangible, addressing the issue of unemployment, and also giving our young people the right skills that can help them secure employment, for instance, in the oil sector or other sectors that we know are pivotal to transforming our economy?
Absolutely not. I think if that is being achieved, then at a very low percentage, probably less than 10%. I come from Amuru, and that is Kelak, a district that has oil, and I can tell you that there is zero young person that has been trained to actually either contribute in welding or something in the oil sector.
That is where you come from.
That is where I come from. And that is just a one case scenario. When you look at across the country, the processes of joining these youth skilling institutions that have been set, youth hubs that have been set around, it's quite challenging for the young people. The other key aspect, which goes without mentioning, is the economy. The young people are not being paid a fair share of what they deserve. I have had a number of people, some other presidential candidates, come out and say, we will put money in your pocket. There is no minimum wage law in this country. So the young people are graduating from the universities. You find a graduate of, let's say, for example, procurement or Bachelor of Science, accounting. He's earning 350,000 or 500,000. That is really, really underpayment for a young graduate of a degree. And so, key to some of these issues that probably will influence or will motivate the young people to decide which side to take will be dependent on the economy. Is a very expensive economy. Yeah, the young people are really struggling, and I think if government or if any presidential candidate is really interested in serving the young people, then perhaps the conversation of minimum wage bill. We have the maids, we have the house helps. They are being paid 50,000 shillings per month. These are young people that are struggling to survive and make ends meet. And so these are critical issues that needs to come out. Unfortunately, when you look at the current presidential candidates, I have not seen the level of detail in any of them that can actually translate to the key issues that the young people are actually advocating for. On the surface level, they will say, yes, we're going to do the job. But when you look at the nitty-gritties of the things, the facts, and you pay attention to the details, they're actually blowing air. So I want to wait and hear and read their manifestos and look at the spirit with which they're writing these manifestos and the direction. But for me, as Bernard, I think of all the presidential candidates, I have not seen depth. I have not seen depth, so I will wait. It is really highly doubtable that any of them, even the National Unity, the good thing, even the National Unity Platform, yes, of course, they have been, they're largely youth-led, and there's a lot of charisma, but I've not seen depth in the detail. What is it that you're able to do quantifiably for the young people?
All right.
Yeah.
But you'll also be telling us what the DF agenda is in terms of, I know you don't have a presidential candidate, but the fact that you're fielding candidates to go to the to Parliament means you certainly have aspirations at some point in time to lead the country. So I'd also like to see the clarity in terms of where this country should be heading from the perspective of the DF, but that's a little later. Honorable Jack Sabiti, we are discussing the issues that will shape or determine the campaigns, the key issues. What what will sway the masses? What will be the key issues as candidates move across the country? And I'd like you to weigh in from the perspective of the Forum for Democratic Change. You have a presidential candidate in the person of Honorable Nandala Mafabi, who I assume is already probably setting off to go to the different parts of the country to canvass votes from supporters. So what are those key issues that your party hopes to address should you come to power?
There are many issues, and certainly these are the issues which, if not properly handled, may cause a little bit of or tilt the way the people are going to vote. 2025-26 elections will have focus on about 3 areas. One, indeed, is the population. It is the population. And here in the population, we're talking about this segments or the strata of the people who are going to vote, who are many, how well organized they are, what will influence them to clearly look at what is going on in this country, and then they say, now, whether I'm DP, whether I'm UPC, whether I'm FDC or NRM, is this where I should be? So that is a factor which I think our party has looked at seriously. And if you look at our manifesto, we have tried to emphasize youth involvement. In the past, I remember during our time, governments had a clear direction, clear way of looking at youth. Government helped, for example, in the payment of fees as a policy, particularly the local governments. But generally, that was the policy of government. Some of us grew up under that schemes of helping the poor people to make sure that the younger generation, attend school. But for the last 40 years, I've not seen a clear direction as to how these youth, who now constitute well over 60%, how they are going to be, to be handled, whichever government comes in power. Mm-hmm. Therefore, these 60% should be looked at very, very seriously.
So, but how? What is it exactly that you intend to do beyond just, saying they need to be looked at seriously? I just want you to unpack for me, looking at this issue seriously. What exactly does it entail? If you are the government in power right now, how would you be addressing this 60%? Actually, it's more than 60%. How would you be addressing these pertinent issues that are pressing this critical demographic for this country?
Yeah, if you look at our manifesto, we have looked at generally first the youth. And we're looking at, if you are, for example, youth, you are of age, you are at school, particularly at the university, we should find a program for them in terms of, one, payment of fees. Payment of fees. What policy can we put in place?
Okay.
Particularly at the university level, these tertiary, certain institutions, when you have gone beyond, you're maturing, but you're still youth. School fees.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we are looking at when you finish when you finish your university or your college, and these are the people now who are going to cause more problems. Yes, because these are the people who will be looking for jobs. These are the people, the younger generation that, is the most energetic population. And I don't wonder when I see this government not taking interest in the university students. They don't want them organized. They don't want them, I think you've seen how they have been involving themselves in trying to thwart the activities of the younger generation at universities. Because they know. Because all of us, the Museveni, the Rugundas, the Otunos and whatever, were as a result of government's role in involving youth, in paying fees, in, being interested in these youth. But this government has not looked at it seriously. They're just talking about, giving token things here and there, but they have no clear program. And if you look at our manifesto, we feel the youth, if you leave university, for example, they should be given something to take home at the university, if you finish a university. And if you heard my candidate in his first rally, he emphasized that point. We should help these people. Mm-hmm. So really, that's one variable. This is one variable that I can see that will influence these elections. Mm-hmm. Okay. The second one is the military. The military. The military, in the past, the military had not been much interested in the politics, as you know. They were only interested in the general taking over government, taking over what. But the current government has made sure that the military is more organized in the sense that it should be part and parcel of the state, not part and parcel of the population. This is to make sure that they are thwarted, they are not let loose. Therefore, I can see the involvement of the military, particularly the army, the intelligence, the police. When we were going for our first rally, I saw it. After nomination, we had nothing, bad intentions or whatever. We wanted to move to Koso to have our rally. But we disrupted all the way. And halfway, I saw again, when Kyagulanyi also was doing his work, going to Kawempe, he was also interrupted. Now, that shows how ready they are to use the military, police, and security services to disorganize the politics. Mm-hmm. The third one is money. Money. Public funds. I don't have much statistics on this. Mm-hmm. But I can see the way money is dished out in this country, the way, the accountability of public funds is not done the way when some of us were in Parliament, scrutinizing every bit, going deep into where our money is going. I can see the general way of looking at funds, money, and of course, given the highest number of, the population of MPs, mm-hmm. One-sided, I can see this money going to be dished out to buy candidates, to buy the population so that they bribe them to vote the systems. Those are the three mainly that I can see.
We'll come back to more, I think.
And that maybe later.
Absolutely.
I will add on.
Thank you, Honorable Sabiti. Major Wichpola, let me come to you. So you've been in and out, you've been quite busy. I think you've been attending to some rather urgent issues. So your colleagues have been giving their submissions on the key issues that they think will actually influence the campaigns, will shape and influence the campaigns. From NUP, the two young people from the DF and the NUP, Dr. Judith and Bernard, I think they've been focusing on the social services, issues of unemployment, issues of education and the curriculum, and how I think the supply side of our education system is not meeting actually the demand side when it comes to employment. And so we've had a lot of issues there. I know your candidate, the incumbent president, starts his first leg of the campaigns in the north, I think, in the coming week. So what will be the issues that he is going to prioritize that you think will also influence how people vote?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I'm very sorry that I didn't follow my colleagues properly, especially the other two. Honorable Sabiti, I've known him for a while, so I can perhaps what he's saying quickly. But I missed the opportunity to hear from my colleagues who are meeting in the studio for the first time. I hope this further engagement will make me know them more. So therefore, it reduces some in-depth of my approach, but we shall catch up along way. But I'm also saying I'm sorry because I was moving out because I was talking to Vice Chairman Northern, that is Honorable Amson Ubua, who is also the Chief Whip, because I am the Secretariat focal person for the President Museveni's campaign in the north, especially Lawan Acholi, and I have to leave after this show because I have to go and prepare. Now, Northern Uganda being under Amson Ubua, remember Ubua took the position of Late Olanya. We are closely moving a lot of things. So he was consulting, we are agreeing on things because he's going to bury the father of Mona, Dr. Mona.
Oh, sorry.
The father.
No, condolences.
So Ubua is rushing, that's why he was constantly calling me to see what I would agree on before he leaves. So, the question for me to answer, or the issue to address for me, is what issues will shape the campaign vis-a-vis my candidate. Other candidates have their issues they're addressing, but I know what mine is addressing. But just in a minute, let me make a comment about what I heard from my colleagues. There was the issue of minimum wage bill. Minimum wage bill is a debate that has continued for us in NRM for long. And it is not because we didn't see it, but I think it is a deliberate move to make it what it is now. Because since we took up this Bretton Woods policy, that is the IMF World Bank thing of liberalization, we were led to think, rightly or wrongly, that let the market determine. And the fear was that should you put a minimum wage bill, it will scare investors. Now, the expectation was that if you make it liberal, you attract more investors, and in its economic sense, it will stabilize, including the welfare of that minimum worker. In other words, the goods and services that he was supposed to buy with his minimum wage will come down. So that is a preview of The Economist. Me, I'm a lawyer. But that is what it is, and therefore, minimum wage was left in that view. That one, put a minimum, say 200,000, you scare investors. They say, let's go to China, it is cheaper there. Or then you said, now that you let it liberal market to determine, how about this minimum wage earner who is earning low? Say, no, when services are goods available, it will balance. So that is for the economy. So we didn't leave it by chance. It was a debate, discussed, and that is a position taken. So if a candidate wants to do it in a different, that is it. Now, about depth of candidates, my colleague doctor said he has not seen many. For us, for now, we are launching the manifesto. The depth of our candidates' approach will come out from his mouth, from the manifesto, but some of us will also articulate it. And then on the involvement of the military, we really know that in election procedures, it is the police who should be the focal person, security agents. The law only allows police to call in the military if they need reinforcement. And it is our considered view from Plot 10 and the NRM that really the military should let us do this job. We have done our interventions in the 5 years, and we believe the people are with us, and therefore Plot 10 left to do its work with our strategies. We shall deliver the victory. So I would expect that the election will keep on its legally mandated state apparatus, that is the police, with that minimum intervention or military by invite. Final on money. Honorable Savage says that public money. It is true for us, we're going to use a lot of money. We're going to use a lot of money, but the lot of money that we are using are in clearly seen areas. Publicity, including adverts, transportation, fuel and all that, and maybe little money for accommodation, like me going to areas where it's not near home. If it is near home, I will sleep home. But if translated into the general exercise, it will be a lot of money. The money for buying, we don't expect to buy people. And it is not public money. For avoidance of doubt, the party has tried to raise money, and we shall use private money, not public money. Now, on the subject matter, what will determine or shape, in our view, is that what will determine for us is poverty, the well-being of a person, of a Uganda. Now, this is a crystallization of many interventions. We are still carrying PDM. PDM, which is an intervention to improve the livelihood of a person, we are carrying it, and we have actually added 15 million per parish, so that leaders in the village, in that parish, are not tempted to fight with the resources with the ordinary people. So we are in what will shape, that is the well-being, which includes poverty eradication. It will consume a lot of our things, and if you look at the manifesto, there are so many interventions geared towards the same. Even if you say, for example, you have given funds for border, 15 billion, you are still giving this 15 billion in a bid that should this border get this money, it will invest it, leading to the crystallization of his well-being. So for us, it is what is going to determine how shape this campaign is how we convince people, first of all, that in the past Kisanja, what attempts have we made to pull people out of poverty, to make his livelihood good? And there are data to show. At one time, we had a debate whether we have already reached middle income class or whatever, but there are data to show. So we shall have that we have pulled in the last Kisanja to this extent, and therefore pray, give us more in the next Kisanja, so that we deal with the livelihood, we deal with the household income, we deal with your welfare. And as I said, this can only be done with multiple interventions, not a one-off. Not a one-off. So for us, that is what will shape the campaign.
Well, thank you very much, Major. You mentioned the issue of security, but we also see just a few days ago in Mbale and I think in Kampala, we've seen footage of security men, particularly police officers, tearing down a campaign poster of a presidential candidate, duly nominated, the presidential candidate of the National Unity Platform Party. I don't know if you've seen those videos. It's been all over social media and even in the news. So then, beyond just talking here on radio, are you as the government in power? Because we know the security people always say they are working on orders from above and so on. What is the message that your party, which is the ruling party, sends to people like that, to these kinds of agencies? Because that's an illegal act.
First of all, I didn't see that. Instead, I was told that there was somebody who was a police officer who was staring that of Museveni instead. So I have not seen
Where was that?
I have not had this. But all said is, our thinking as a party is that during this exercise, there should be many forums to ensure that we go smoothly. For example, we expect a forum of presidential candidates to routinely meet. I know they would be diverse, but we shall see how to put them together. Our candidate has no problem with that. Two, the secretary generals of these parties should create a forum where they routinely will be assessing challenges during the campaign exercise. And also the candidates, as I said, their agents should routinely be meeting. We are on the 8th. So this is one other approach that we suggest should do this to ensure the smooth campaign. And this will send a message to those overzealous police officers. In any case, they cannot be subjected to the law. And you know very well, Judith, that even if it veered off to human rights violation per se, which even in this case, if somebody argued to be a violation of a right as a presidential candidate, you have violated my right by tearing my poster. We have said as a government, the president assented to a law called Human Rights Enforcement Act. The Human Rights Enforcement Act basically removed the ISRA 2 defense of Attorney General, that if a police person comes in the course of duty and breaks your leg and you sue such an officer, the officer will say, I was doing work of Attorney General, please to sue Attorney General. This law, assented to by the president, now says that officer is personally liable. So, the message we are sending is we should have various forums in the process of the campaign for the 8 candidates, but also the law will continue to operate. And this means if you could only say if it is criminal, DPP will fail to charge or will withdraw a charge. But in a human rights violation, a civil matter, anybody can take up, and you have no defense of Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Major. It's time for us to take a break. When we return, we shall be continuing with our conversation. We want to specifically look at issues like the power of incumbency using state resources. Also, the commercialization of politics has been mentioned, but we would like to discuss this a little more. We've also seen people crossing from one camp or one political party to another. What does this mean? Dr. Kizza Besigye, who's been a key figure in Uganda's in Uganda's elections over the last several years, is missing from the ballot this time around. What is the implication of this? What does this mean? All this and lots more after the break. Welcome back. It's 9:48 a.m. and we continue with our conversation here on KFM VPN. We are looking at the issues that will influence the 2025-26 political campaigns in Uganda. With me in the studio, I have retired Major Wich Paula, the Director for External Affairs at the NRM Secretariat, Honorable Jack Sabiti, National Chairperson of the Forum for Democratic Change, Dr. Judith Nalokwago, National Unity Platform Secretary for Professionals. She's also the flag bearer, LC5 Woman Councillor, March India West, and Dr. Bernard Chankara, Public Policy Analyst, also a Democratic Front Party member and MP aspirant for Kilak South County constituency, rather. So before the break, we discussed a lot of issues, things that will influence these elections. I want us now to look at the issue of the power of incumbency. What does this mean for us? The issue of use or misuse of state resources. Where does this leave? Where does this leave the others? People are crossing already from one party to another. The other notable absence in this campaign this time around is Dr. Kizza Besigye not appearing on the ballot. We also have the issue of no female candidates this time around on the ballot. Well, we know Besigye also missed 2021. We've had statements recently by the Internal Affairs Minister to the effect that Besigye's continued incarceration is a debt on democracy and human rights. We have issues like civil society organizations and other institutions like the religious and cultural not putting up a strong message out there about, say, the sanity of these campaigns and having a peaceful election. We're seeing silence on their parts. Cultural institutions given cash or other incentives like vehicles. Some have frequent meetings with key government ministers, etc., like the Speaker and the President. The independence of the Electoral Commission to referee the polls, despite continued calls for electoral reforms. There are lots of questions. Just how independent is our Electoral Commission? On the power of incumbency, the president still has powers to perform his executive roles. And we know that instead of, say, at this point in time, giving powers to the Chief Justice or any other office that could be in charge. There's also the curtailing of media freedoms, which is causing a lot of fear and censorship, especially attacks on journalists and intimidation since the March Kawempe North by-elections. So all these issues are things that we see as issues of concern. Judith, I'll come to you on many of this. But before that, also, I'd like you to address Dr. Bernard's earlier issue. Just what's the depth of your articulation or response to all these challenges that we know exist and need answers and solutions? Because, like he says, he does not see anything tangible from any candidate so far. But I know every camp believes they have a very strong manifesto. They have very strong responses to addressing this crisis. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And also, Bernard, you will also let me know the quantifiable things that the DF thinks it can do to address these issues. Over to you, Judith.
I think why Bernard had not yet heard, it's because many of the candidates have not yet launched their manifestos. Because in the manifestos, that's where you hear the details of how they expect to do the things they are talking about. What they gave us was just a brief speech of like 5 minutes. So you don't expect so much detail in a speech of 5 minutes. But for us as a National Unity Platform, and as someone who is an ambassador and a spokesperson, when I am anywhere of the National Unity Platform, of course, I understand what we are about, what our manifesto is about. Of course, we have very different key aspects in our manifesto, which I think is going to be launched on Monday as we are in Jinja. And like I told you, one of the issues that is at top of our agenda is employment opportunities for young people. And what we want to do is mainly human resource capital development. Human resources, we the people of Uganda, how do we transform, how do we develop our country? So when you look at us, like I said, almost 80%, because we are 78% of young people below the age of 35. So that means we are young, energetic, and entrepreneurial. So how do we develop that human resource to serve the country and ensure economic development? That is what we are looking at as a National Unity Platform, because that transforms. That's a multi-sectorial approach. In that, for example, Uganda's population right now is around 48 million. By 2026, it's projected to be 104 million Ugandans, and 70% of those will be under the age of 30. That is a prediction. So if 70% by 2060 will be under the age of 30, how are you, because now those will be working class people. So how are you transforming this country? How are you building this country now so that by 2060, these young people who have turned into working class people can be able to develop their country? That is what China did. China emphasized industrialization. And actually right now, China is the industry of the world. The ones that make everything and supply to the world. Even the USA, the ones that make everything. So that is why you're seeing prices are going up in the USA because of tariffs that Trump put up. So how do we develop our human resource? One is through education that meets the demands of the current state of affairs in our country. That is what we want to invest in, and you're going to hear in detail what our education is about. What are we going to transform in education, the curriculum, the way, the employment of teachers, because currently the employment rate in government schools is around 24%, you can imagine. So we want to tackle the issue of education. Number two, we want to tackle the issue of healthcare. Okay, you've educated these young people. Are you making sure that the money you've invested in their education, they're able to live and produce and work for you? That is a question that we need to understand. That is why it is important that we invest in healthcare. One, by employing more healthcare workers, because even employment as far as government hospitals is also around 24-25%.
Okay.
Yes. So also when we look at things like clean water, like ICT, those are things we want to put our emphasis in, so that we build the human resource capacity of these young people, so that they develop our country. But also moving forward, we want to build industries, but through value addition. It's not just building any industry, but we have resources in Uganda. So how do we add value? We have seen that we are a country, one of the biggest exporters of coffee in the world. So why do we export the raw material? Why don't we make the coffee here in Uganda? That is what we want to. Value addition. We have a lot of. We have milk. We have. We do a lot of animal husbandry. We do a lot of agriculture. How do we transform? Right now, Tanzania is the rice capital of East Africa. We eat a lot of rice, and Tanzania supplies all of East Africa and Central Africa. So, moreover, Uganda has a better climate to be a big agriculture producing country. So, how do we transform that? Tanzania shouldn't beat us at a game that we have advantages over them. So that is want to transform that. Okay, we've made agriculture better. So how do we add value to the produce we are having, so that young people can get employment? So that we create, because whenever you add value, you create more market. You bring in more income. So that is what we want to change.
Okay, so I also would like to hear, you've touched on a number of issues: social services, education, healthcare. You've also looked at technology, that's ICT. And the economy, building industries through value addition. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on issues like the defense and security of our country, for example, security within and also without, beyond borders. Response to issues like the influx of refugees to the country, issues like taxation and also climate change. These are really big issues that the world is grappling with today. What is your strategic thinking as a party, should you come to power, when it comes to addressing these issues?
Okay. By the way, on the contrary of what NRM thinks, security is not absence of war. Security is also absence of justice. Whenever there is no justice in the country, you tend to get things like insecurity. Whenever there are no jobs in the country, you get insecurity. So that is why for us, we tell Uganda that's going to be a multidisciplinary approach. Okay, we want security. Have we produced enough jobs for Ugandans so that we don't have butaimbwa happening everywhere? We want security, but okay, if someone commits a crime or not, or if they have not committed a crime, is the justice system fair enough so that we don't have issues of what is happening at the moment? But also beyond borders, what happens in other countries that our neighbors affects us? You're seeing an influx of so many refugees from South Sudan, from Ethiopia, from Sudan, from Somalia, in Uganda right now. Actually, that is one of the issues we are facing in Machindi. We have so many people from Somalia and Ethiopia, which shouldn't be an issue. The issue is some of them come with a lot of money and they compete with. Actually, when you look at Machindi, many of the people have gone out of Machindi to other areas like Busabala, Ugandans, because they cannot compete with Ethiopians in terms of rent, because rent has really skyrocketed because they have more money than us. So the issue, because even us in Uganda, we can get instability and we have to go to those countries. So these people have to come to our country and live. It is okay. But then that is why it is important for us to make sure we look into the security of other countries. We have to make that is one thing I will appreciate President Museveni for, that he has made sure that he doesn't ignore the security of other countries, because he knows how important it is to the people of Uganda. But also, these refugees, when they're coming into Uganda, they should have proper documentation, because most of them don't have. We have seen them being lined up in courts that they're competing with us in businesses. Moreover, they don't have proper documentation. So it gives a disadvantage to us Ugandans that, okay, they have come in, they don't have proper documentation, they have more money than us, and now we cannot compete with them.
What's the response to that?
The response to that, one, is to, like I told you, we have to ensure that they have proper documentation when they're coming into our country. And we have to make sure that they're refugees. Not everyone can just come in. That's what Trump is doing to United States of America. So that is one issue. Then the issue of climate change, of course. We have had challenges of deforestation happening in the country. I remember, which year was it, when Mama Mavira led a protest against cutting down the Maria forest. As a country that is blessed with good climate and natural resources, I think we shouldn't be cutting down forests so that apparently to build industries, because we have other areas that don't have forests where we can construct these industries. So climate change is one of our agendas. Actually, you're going to hear it in our manifesto when we are launching it on Monday. Climate change is part of our agenda. Security is part of our agenda. Of course, I couldn't mention everything here. I had to mention just a few that are phrases in our manifesto.
Yeah, that is fine. Thank you. Bernard, over to you, Dr. Bernard.
Thank you very much.
I also want to hear the tangible and quantifiable things that the DF wants to do that sets them apart from the rest.
Thank you very much again, Madam Moderator and colleague. The Democratic Front, as you're aware, is the new political party that took shape, I think, about 3 months ago. What we are aspiring to do as the Democratic Front is to provide a platform for a new Uganda, in which we are attempting to reconstruct a Uganda where there is equal opportunities for everyone, and sort of provide a clarity of direction. And that is what we aspire as a political party that is new. We've also analyzed the current political dynamics of our country, and then we've come to a conclusion that it is no longer viable to run for the presidency of this country under the current legal regimes. We have noted over time that the NRM establishment and the impartiality of the electoral commissions, without the electoral reforms, it is practically impossible to lead this country. And that is why in the most recent delegate National Council, members that are attracted from across the country resolved that we do not present a presidential candidate. That comes from the acceptance of the mistakes that NRM has made over time, but also us realizing that resetting Uganda will take a little bit of time. We must agree in this forum that the NRM government has made significant mistakes over time, and there should be no rush to fix Uganda. We will not be able to fix Uganda in the next 5 years. And so, in the next subsequent years that we try or make attempts to guide Uganda into a right path, we will need to be patient with ourselves, and we need to be careful in our approach. Now, in that regard, we have not been able to develop a manifesto for our presidency. But of course, again, I see it as the national head of policy in the Democratic Front, and what we're trying to do is to craft out a direction of Uganda, and these policy directions. And so, the things that I've been able to say here may not necessarily be the manifesto of Democratic Front, because it has not yet been unanimously agreed on. But key to the issues that we want to address is skilling of the young people. What is it? We want to save this country from what is it that you can say to what is it that you can do. Because I think in Uganda, our young people have been able to talk more than they can do, and that is a big problem. So we want to save this country and the young people from what they can say to what they can do, and the skilling comes in handy. We want to invest significantly in the coming years to see that the young people are sifted from those two paradigms. Many countries or economies that have relatively developed stability, their population have turned into what is it they can do. And I think I need to deconstruct the argument of industrialization that I think we will scare off investors. Industrialization not necessarily mean should be mega in nature. Okay? A small country like Uganda, we can actually start industrialization at a low level. Yeah, there are countries and there are evidence that have shown that people in certain countries, for example in China, they do manufacture small things, but from within their house premises, and they are really producing. Whether it is toys, whether it is small things, whether it is small smartphones, they are producing, they are assembling these things from their house basement. and they'll be able to access market. So that is the strategic direction that we think Uganda should be able to take. Meritocracy. We need to restore this country into a meritocracy-based economy. Are you skilled enough? Do you have the right integrity? Can you offer leadership or service to Uganda? If that is the case, then you deserve the job. If you come with the notion that, okay, this is my uncle, this is my relative, I think you don't deserve a space in the new direction that we want to set as the Democratic Front. So meritocracy will come in handy, and this is a process. We also think that absorbing the university graduates should be a responsibility of government. At least a percentage, maybe not all, but at least a significant percentage of all our graduates that graduate from the university, especially if you score highly from your class. You're doing Bachelor of Accounting and Finance on Chambugo University, for example, and you're among the top 30. Government agencies or ministries should be able to absorb you. And that takes us back, if you go back into the Bote 1, I think, and that was the process. People would graduate with a diploma from Makerere University and walk into a government institution and serve this country. And that is where we think it is a good direction for this country. There are many other things. ICT innovations comes in handy. That is the direction which the global economy has taken. We want to see significant investment in that direction. And so so those are the critical aspects. There are many other things that we need to do for the young people. But bottom line, there must be honesty, integrity, and clarity on what that we can do. Just before I yield the mic, Major Which did mention the priority of government at a policy level, where government prioritized investors and declined on the minimum wage bill. In that regard, I will respond as economic policy expert. Who is it that you are interested to serve? I think that it is the responsibility of government to protect the citizens of this country. And we are dealing with high level of unemployment, and we are dealing with high cost of living. We are also dealing with an economy where the taxes are way too heavy on Ugandans. And so if you earn 50,000 shillings and government is taxing every bit of that 50,000 shillings, where do you end up? How do you progress? How do you take your children to school? Medical bills and all these other nexus of issues that comes with the cost of living. And yet you are not giving minimum wage bill to the young people, and then you're attracting investors whom you are actually giving tax holidays between 10 to 20 years. And they're not paying taxes, and they're recruiting these young people and paying them peanut in an economy where government tax is exorbitantly high. I think there is a complete mismatch there. And I think in that aspect, in that regard, we need to develop policies that align some of these issues. And I think the NRM government has not been able to prove that. And I can hear it clearly from your earlier argument that NRM government has failed to strike a balance between investment, or attracting investment, and safeguarding the interests of the young people, or safeguarding the interests of Ugandans in that regard. There are many things. For instance, we have the government schools. Government send them, I think, about 20,000 annually per child. And then you ask yourself, okay, what is 20,000 doing for a child for the whole year in government school? Those are issues that might need to be addressed. And so these issues that I've mentioned, we are reconstruction as DF because we think that government needs to be, Uganda government needs to be reset, and DF is providing that opportunity where we can actually rebuild this country.
Judith, I have a question, just for clarity.
Yeah.
I just needed clarity. I have had the DF say that due to, even when Puga was in parliament sometime back, he said if there are no reforms, for him, he doesn't think this election is worth it.
Exactly.
So if you're saying that because there are no reforms, the presidential election is not worth it, then why in the parliamentary election? Because they're literally all the same. Because when he was presenting the reforms, they included both presidential and parliamentary reforms. But none of them was achieved. So why are they in the parliamentary election?
Okay.
That is the question I wanted to understand.
I think let me clarify on that. The National Council, we've been able to separate these elections into 3 phases. Yeah, we noted that there is a presidential elections, and we noted that there are parliamentary elections, and we noted that there are local government elections. When we categorize these 3, we need to help Uganda. And where is it that provides us with the best opportunity to cause a significant change? To be able to achieve any contribution or a change in Uganda's dynamic at the moment, we need to have control over parliament, and we need to have control over local government. If we are able to achieve that, then we stand a better chance of giving a direction to Uganda. And so that it is from that background then we realize that, okay, I think for the presidential elections, it is not worth it. In any case, President Museveni, of course, the moderator earlier already mentioned the issues of the independence of the Electoral Commission. We totally disagree. We believe that the Electoral Commission is not able to offer Uganda a free and fair election.
But you are participating in an election presided over by the very
and unfortunately, the law only allows you, if you want to contribute in the conversation of changing this country into the right direction,
you must participate in
the current circumstances that are available. And that is the reality we face.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a break and then we return and continue with the discussion. I'll give the mic to you, Honorable Jack Sabiti, and then later to Major Wichpo. Welcome back. It's 10:15. Time is running quite fast. And glad you're still with us here on 933 KFM VPN. We're discussing, of course, the issues that will shape the 2025-2026 political campaigns in Uganda now that nominations are behind us and the campaigns have effectively taking shape. Honorable Jack Sabiti, I want to come to you on some of these issues that I highlighted already. Your response to issues like taxation, your plans for a strong and robust economy for Uganda, response to issues of, say, labor migration and rights of migrant workers, security and defense of our national and territories and boundaries, response to issues like climate change, ICT, and so on. What is your plan when you take leadership of this country? But before that, you will respond, and I'll just throw a question to Dr. Judith and Dr. Bernard here to come in later. When you were talking about ethical leadership, you were talking about issues of justice and peace and so on. I actually felt like you were re-echoing what General Mugisha Muntu of the Alliance for National Transformation said at his nomination on Wednesday. And he's been quite consistent with the message of ethical leadership, meritocracy, and so on. And when we look at the two parties that you come from, Bernard, you come from the Democratic Front headed by Matthias Mpuga, and we know the scandals that also he's been embroiled in over looking at the money, the commissioners' money, the 500 million shillings scandal. Dr. Judith, you come from the National Unity Platform Party, and we've also had a lot of scandals within the party, especially during the nominations of candidates, accusations of candidates being asked to pay money to receive the party flag. A lot of things which are in complete contradiction with the values that you want Ugandans to rally. You're trying to rally Ugandans on. Your own parties, the leadership of your own parties, do not seem to reflect these values that you are, talking about and you want Ugandans to believe in. That is quite a contradiction, and I don't know how you will explain that, but I'll give you the opportunity to explain that to our listeners later. And the same is for you, Honorable Jack Sabiti. Sabiti, the FDC party, you also have a very strong candidate who had a very good career as a politician, Nandala Mafabi, quite respectable, until recently when members of your party split and went and created the PFF. And it was on allegations of money that your own party president is in cahoots with the regime right now. And there's also a question of public trust around that. How do you hope to actually win the trust of the public in light of these kinds of scandals? I'll give you the microphone.
There are many variables that we can look at when we think about the future of this country, and particularly when we are in our elections. And in our manifesto, we have tried to look at the power of incumbency. The power of incumbency vis-a-vis the military, the police, and the intelligence system. Much as we appreciate that in the last 40 years, we haven't had turmoil in terms of wars, fighting, and whatever. But, you see, at times, some form of dictatorship, once it overrides the people's power, you will have peace. And that peace, yes, we have. But what type of peace is that? So we feel that the next government should have a look at the way the military is organized and run, the way the intelligence systems are organized and run, the way police, which is supposed to be doing most of the internal security, has now been mixed up with the military. So the power of incumbency should be looked after seriously. And that one, without, bias or fear or favor, we feel even if Museveni won again, still that issue, we think should be seriously looked at, because this gives the presidency too much power at the expense of the population. That's why we shall see that such power can lead to corruption. Such power can lead to discrimination. That power can lead to future violence of this country. So that is an area which my party, my colleagues in the party, look at seriously. Number two, we look at the population, as I had started earlier. The population of Uganda has grown too fast. If you look when we are young and the number of years that have been covered, our population has grown too fast. And there will be need for any government in power to start looking at how to handle the population of this country, particularly the younger generation that constitute nearly over 60%. 60%. So we feel that we should look at the sectors within this population, particularly the younger children. We must change the educational system. We must look at from primary 1 up to primary 4 and first nursery. Then we should move up and look at secondary and, of course, the higher education. So that's another area which our party is looking at seriously. We look at poverty, the economy of the country, and how poverty has really eaten deeper into the bones of, the people of Uganda. We feel that the way we handle the economy of this country is not transparent. It's not the way it should be. The way money is spent, the way the budgets are done. We find a problem in that. And particularly our candidate, being a man who has gone deep into this, worked with him in Parliament. We were together in different same committees on finance, on accountabilities, local government. We feel there is need to review this area. And our manifesto also talks about this seriously. We look at corruption in this country. The current president talked much about corruption, and some of us had hopes that if he came into power, given his clean leadership at that time, in UPM and whatever, we had thought when he comes into power, he will crack down corruption in this country. But if we look at the way things are being done now, our party believes this country has become more and more corrupt. The public service, in the military, and top management. You hear many things in State House. You hear many things which are happening in different parts of the of the society. So corruption is another area which we hope, if we got a chance to have power, that we should handle. The question of messaging. We feel the rule of law should prevail, and we should adhere to what the law states. An individual should be handled according to the law. For example, we had disagreed with the message on different many things in our party, and that's why the Mujisamuntus went first, and others went. We continued being with him, but later we found that there was a problem. However, we feel the way it has been handled has not been as per the law, and therefore we believe that every Ugandan citizen should be given a chance to live happily in this country and not be subjected to certain rules which are not in conformity with the Constitution. We also have a very good chapter on education and transport system, and environment. And those areas are still being worked on.
Okay.
And so I think these are the most basic areas.
Thank you, Honourable.
Where we think.
Thank you, Honourable Jack Sabiti. We shall come back with other questions later. Major, I think over to you. I think, you are the ruling party, so do you have any new plans, actually, any new ideas that are transformative for Ugandans? We know the president has been on wealth creation, but just how has this translated to actually meaningful transformation for the average Ugandan? We still know that the multidimensional poverty index, for instance, shows us what the poverty levels are in certain parts of the country: Karamoja, northern Uganda, parts of eastern Uganda, even here in central, which seems to be more wealthier than other parts of the country. We still know that there are a lot of people who live in chronic poverty, and the issue of poverty, of course, is central to a lot of other issues. If you have an impoverished country, it certainly affects issues of security and so many others. What is that transformative idea that we should actually expect the NRM to do for Ugandans should they be given a second mandate in January? Not a second mandate, another mandate, a seventh one, I hope.
Thank you so much. What you're asking is pretty summarized in our theme of the manifesto, protecting the gains while striving for other targets to be in the higher middle income. Therefore, this theme, if we unpackage, can explain your question. But you will permit me to answer a few things raised by my friend, then I will explain that. But of course, a lot of mention has been made about the power of incumbency. This power of incumbency also attracts a lot of criticisms because you seem to be the main guy in the boxing ring where everybody will want to box you. And therefore, I need to respond. First of all, the power of incumbency goes with the fact that constitutionally in our system, a reigning president remains with all the apparatus of a head of state, with escorts, with security and all that, and even ascending to laws, meaning that if he chose to abuse his power, he could still ascend to a law which is biased to other colleagues, but we don't want to invoke that.
In other words, candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is a presidential candidate with full presidential powers at the same time.
Although internally for us now, we try to separate him from government programs. For example, we one time had a campaign where there was supposed to be an opening of a water project in Lira, and we said no, for today I think let's not mix the opening of a government water project from you as a candidate. But of course you see the president goes with that, and it happens in many jurisdictions, including the United States of America. But also the power of incumbency comes with the advantage of past performance. That is, if you have performed, you will be taken off from a better footing by the voters because you have what to show, unlike a candidate who was not an incumbent. So I just want to say the power of incumbency depends on how you have been or how you intend to use it. It can work against you and it can work for you. Because, for example, if you had been a non-performer, people will say, look here, you have 5 years, what have you done with it? So we are very alive to the power of incumbency.
But it can also be abused.
Yeah, it can also. I already said it. You can pass a law. You can assent to a law which is wrong. But we don't do that. Dr. appreciates Museveni. I thank her so much. Although she said it is only one of the things she appreciates, but I'm just inviting Doctor to appreciate Museveni more and more because he does many other things. I also like to thank the DF for not offering a presidential candidate because if you really know you can't make it, don't. And indeed, you have not done it, and that is good for us. So actually, even in the next 5 years, you don't offer one. Don't offer one.
Even in Parliament, they shouldn't offer.
Don't offer one. So we are okay with that. We thank you so much for not offering. I am also a little surprised that you raise a very serious red flag about the depth or the lack of it in other candidates or in other parties, but just to turn around and to find you had none. I would say, hey, come on. Before you remove the speck from your friend's eyes, first remove from yours. Now you really seriously raise about the lack of depth in what other parties are saying. And when you ask yours, you said, we don't have a presidential candidate, so we don't have this manifesto. And we're trying to raise policy lines. I was like, hey, really? How? So, good enough my colleagues have tried to raise theirs, but still I have to note that you are raising a red flag of our lack of depth when you have none at all. But we welcome your policy, because if we look at your policy, it will inform us, and that is why there's need for intercourse of ideas. Definitely your policy won't leave us the same again. We'll pick something good from it. You also made mention, you're a public policy analyst. You said that when a law the minimum wage of 50,000 is paid and government is taxing. Did you say that? I thought that there is a threshold. I was wondering what 50,000 attracts a tax. Is it income tax? Is it pay as you earn?
I think he was decrying the fact that we still have people in labor, like housemaids, house helps, who are earning 50,000, and there's no protection for that category of workers. Am I right, Bernard?
He said you earn 50,000, and this one is tax. And then what do you have, or what do you take home? So what I'm saying is that, for the avoidance of doubt to the viewers, 50,000 does not fall within the tax threshold.
No, that is absolutely not true.
You're looking at only pay as you earn.
You're only focusing on one tax, and that is pay. But every money that anybody earns in this economy attracts indirect taxes. And that is where I raised. That is where.
For example, if I pay my maid 100,000, at what point will
that maid goes
sugar, value-added tax?
That same maid goes to the same market where you who earns millions of shillings buys.
She has to go to the market to buy food, buy sugar, buy
and that
commodities.
Is where the tax concerns are, my friend.
I think that is a misapplication of the taxation rule. For me, you rather raise that under the cost of goods.
We are saying let's first protect those who earn low.
I'm saying this would better be a raise that you are paying somebody low salary and yet the cost of living in high. That would settle. But if you bring it within the domain of taxation, it's so confusing because we know
it is not confusing.
The law provides for tax.
We are saying that let's protect those who earn less. Okay?
True, agreed.
And the only way we can protect those who earn less is by having a serious debate.
Agreed.
On how much they should earn.
Agreed. My point is, whatever
and
you have
then
said,
we can progressively have conversations on how do we manage the cost of the economy.
Well,
please,
Judith knows me as a disciplinarian. I wouldn't exchange. I would take notes. As a disciplinarian, I would take notes.
Major, I want you to carry on and we wind up.
What I'm saying is that
before we go for a break,
the issue of the protection of a low-hand wage, we agreed. And I had earlier said that we were alive to that, but the debate then was the liberalization and all that. And I said it is now for the society to judge. Has this led to more industrialization as fear was or not? But I just wanted it to come clear that the context in which a low salary earner is affected is in the cost of, or a cost of living, the prices. But for tax regime, the law are clear who is taxed, who is not. But you can't now, because it is misleading to the people that the viewer said, under NRM, people get 50,000 and they are taxed. Somebody will say, oh, is that true? So this interface is only in the cost of living, not in taxation per se, because taxation has its legal system and the threshold to be taxed is known. Now, about how we want to add or do better, I had already started by hinting that it is pretty captured in our theme of the manifesto. Because for us, we are saying we have had the power of the incumbency. So for us to bring new things, we must first protect what we have. Because there are things that we have done. There are things like Honorable Sabit said about peace, about the unity of the country. I've repeatedly said that in these years that we have been in government, countries have died. Somalia broke into pieces, Sudan broke, Libya is in pieces, and the rest. So we have managed to keep a country called Uganda. And for that alone, for anything to happen, we need to keep that Uganda. So we have to keep the gains. And we have also, we're saying, the minimum infrastructural development that we have, including roads, you are not going to say, let it die again. We have to maintain, we keep it. Then the ones that you add on, let's say railways and the rest, we shall add on. We have achieved things like life expectancy. What else would it happen if we don't live? We must first be alive for us to continue. So you need life as a minimum thing. So so our theme for any new things that we have already been around and bringing, we are saying first keep what you have, and then add, and the list of the new are known. You know, in a Luo, there's a saying that the white hands that has fallen in your trap, the one you can pick and put in the sack, first catch that one. Because the ones which are flying, somebody's light may attract and goes away. So this is pretty what we're saying. Maintaining the gains as we strive to get to the higher middle income. Therefore, this would push us as we launch the manifesto that what are the new interventions that we have. The new interventions, for example, include, say, teachers, arts teachers. For a long time, we had conceived the idea that to transform this country, we need sciences. And we moved in to facilitate science teachers. And then there were outcry out there. Although we insistently said, we are not forgetting art teachers. At appropriate time, we shall bring them in. And cries continue. But this next thing, the payment or remuneration of art teachers, is one of the addition, is one of the new things that we are talking about. Okay. We are also saying that to engage in a job creation, we also need an additional gear in the area of industrialization, and that comes in. So, Judith, you will find that in the manifesto, details of new interventions are in. But our insistence also is that these white hands that you have already got in your sack, concentrate on it so that you don't think of the ones flying up which will disappear or somebody's light will take. But interventions to make sure that those white hands are not taken by some other person's light are there. And that's why I started by mentioning things like teachers and also civil servants. For example, there's going to be an enhancement on salary of civil servants. We have been talking here of low pay, possibly the other one for, or somebody would imply in private sector, but even in public sector, that is a new addition in our manifesto. So we're pretty sure that with the power of incumbency, we are going to use to keep what we have or to consolidate what we have, and we're putting new interventions, and we shall move forward.
Thank you very much, Major. It's time for us to take another break, and then when we return, we are still going to shine the spotlight further on the issue of depth within the opposition parties, and in particular, I think we want to also explore issues like the failure to, well, we know that the opposition has often cried about the political playing field not being level, but yet again, we see the opposition participating in a not so good environment. You've called for reforms severally, but you're going for a third exercise without reforms. You've had several attempts at fronting a single candidate or coalescing around, working together, but still you fail to come to an agreeable, to a common understanding. And even today, the opposition seems more divided from within. We've seen the opposition competing or fighting against each other. NUP has had running battles over tickets internally. The DF breaking away from the Democratic Party. PFF splitting from FDC. We see fights internally within the DP, fights within the UPC. So if you cannot organize internally, how then do you expect to actually unseat the incumbent? That's after the break. Welcome back from the break. It's 15 minutes to 11 o'clock, and then we will bring the show to a close. So we now shift the spotlight to the opposition yet again, and I want to hear your thoughts. I think I'll start with Bernard because Judith had stepped out briefly. So the opposition, and I'm not looking at the DF, I'm speaking broadly about the opposition, of course. You've cried of not having a level political playing field, but you had already responded to that. That is why you don't want to, field a presidential candidate, but you're participating, though, at other levels. Do you expect, how do you expect something different when when the playing field is as it is?
Well, you must adapt to survive in the current circumstances. That it is a given, because it is what it is. That is the current political environment that we operate in. Unfortunately, if we are to be really a country that lives in multi-party systems, we should strive for an environment where everyone participates equally and inclusively without discrimination. We should also strive to create an environment in which people or Ugandans are protected as they exercise their rights to vote. Unfortunately, that is not going to happen anytime soon unless we create a path, and that is the only way. We think that Ugandans should be able to have a conversation about these things, an honest conversation, without lies, without propaganda, without any sort of thing.
But Bernard, how do you expect to bring Ugandans together to listen to your voices collectively when you are so divided amongst yourselves as the opposition? You can't bring your own selves together. How do you expect to rally the rest?
Challenges are there because of different opinions, different direction, and all that. But there are core aspects of governance that we can agree on. If we are going to elect our leaders, what are the ground rules? Those we can agree on. But like you had Major said, that the president has the presidential powers, but also as a candidate. What that means is that at any point, at any time, he can decide to actually alter the election, and that will be valid because he has the presidential powers. He can at any one point alter any aspect of the election. Let's also not forget that he is the president is the appointing authority of the electoral commissions. Those are critical issues, and those are the baseline of having free and fair elections. And those are the issues that we can actually agree on. We don't have to
agree on everything.
We don't have to agree on everything, but we can agree on the basics of governance. Yeah. And for me, I am disappointed in Major, because when you say the DF is not able to present a presidential candidate, when we raise a legitimate...
You're the one who said
No, you're actually happy.
Wait.
Of course, you can't be annoyed.
No, I'm not saying you should be annoyed.
Allow Dr. Bernard to
I'm not saying you should be annoyed. But as a person who speaks for government in power, you should be concerned that the Constitution provides that we are under a multi-party dispensation. And if there is a political party that has formed, a new political party that has been formed, and they want to offer leadership in this country, you should be happy and you should be concerned. Why are they not able to present the presidential candidate? Because we want to grow our democracy. And so for me, my disappointment comes on that. Because then for you want an environment where there is no competition. And of course, you've actually created this environment where political parties are not able to participate.
Okay.
We want to participate. We want to present the presidential candidate.
Bernard, your 4 minutes are over.
We cannot present. There is a concern that you raised earlier, and I think I have to respond to that.
Just very quickly in a minute.
You said our president of the DF, Matthias Puga, had concerns over allegations of funding and all that when he's the commissioner. I think that question comes more often, and that of course challenges integrity concerns.
Yeah.
And I think it is a legitimate question. And these questions, I personally have raised it in several forums.
What is the response of the DF? Yeah.
But you see, our politics has been so the waters have been so damaged and spoiled. Okay, so there are likelihood that judgments can be skewed in one direction or another at any one particular one point. In that commission, they said, I think Matthias Puga, when he was representing the appointment from the NUP, and I think 4 others come from the NRM. In any decision point, you may find that if we are to go by democracy and rule of majority, then you actually realize that probably the NRM commissioners probably had more majority numbers than Matthias Puga. That is not to excuse Matthias Puga. Okay, those are legitimate questions, and I think he should come out clearly
on that
and explain
absolutely
that by himself.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we are really running out of time, but I need to move to Judith, and I'm sorry, he's taken 1 minute already off your time. So yes, and that would also serve as your concluding points. Yeah, so we were talking about the issue of integrity in your party. You're calling for values, you want to rally people around values, yet your own party seems to be tainted on so many of these fronts. Very quickly.
Okay. Is it also part of my parting shots?
Yes.
So one is, I think I've addressed this before. We've had challenges in the NUP. Some have come forward. We've had issues of I paid money to get the NUP flag. It is. You've had many of them, and I have discussed them. But the issue is we as NUP, we are always willing to have conversations about that, because if you hear something like that, you don't take it for granted. Those are big allegations, and we really are on them. But I don't understand someone putting up an allegation and you do not bring evidence, so you're not helping us. If someone asked you for money to buy this NUP ticket, please come and help us identify that person so that we deal with them, because we're willing to deal with those people. But also, most importantly, we should not underestimate that some people throw allegations just anyhow because they have not managed to get the ticket. And that is why we always ask for evidence. Help us so that we can curtail this habit if it's actually happening. Then moving forward is, you asked something about, no, let me first address, if those people who did not get the party tickets and they had paid money to get the card, I am so happy they didn't get it. Because what kind of a leader are you going to be if just entering the journey of your leadership is starting with corruption? I'm happy they didn't get. But moving forward, you talked about Mugisha Muntu manifesto and all, and how it is similar to what we are talking about. You know, when you've been under a
not his manifesto, but the things he stands for and what he said at the rally. Yes.
We as the opposition, we've been under a dictatorship for 40 years. Of course, the challenges that Ugandans are facing are the same. So you're going to hear a lot that many of the issues are going to cut across the different political parties.
Thank you.
And finally, what I want to tell Major is that, yes, I said that I appreciated Museveni for the peace and the cross-border peace that is happening, but a dead clock is also, a dead clock can be correct once in a day. Or twice in a day. So that is Museveni for you. There's a lot of issues around his presidency for 40 years, but that is the one time or twice that is correct in a day.
Thank you, Honorable Saviti. In conclusion, as we actually come to a close to this country, what would be your final remarks or your thoughts, still in line with the fragmentation around the opposition?
Peace and conflict, these are two things you have to look at, particularly for us who have gone through peace and conflict at our age. So we are saying the background is not good. We need reforms. We need to work together. Why is opposition divided? If we detect there is a problem within ourselves, it's like a home. If a child causes a problem, or a mother causes, or a father causes a problem, you must sort it out. So at times, a child runs off from the home. Does not mean that we are not serious. It means we are trying to correct the problem. right? So the fights within is to fight dictatorship within our parties. And that's why even within a bigger picture of a country like Uganda, we do not want to go back to start fighting the way we fought. But we are telling the leadership, please don't use the government you had, right, to disorganize others, right, to allow corruption, to allow some people achieve what even others should have achieved. So we are saying, yes, we are still in our parties. Whoever disagree, and by the way, remember, we were also in the other party, which is in government. So when we saw some of those things, we left. So you can't continue saying you have also a problem here, you also have a problem here. No, we are saying, yes, once a problem is there, you must identify it and fight it. And then if you feel you can't be part of it, get out.
Okay.
But if you are saying we should maybe get guns and fight, we fought before, we know the repercussions. Therefore, we want both parties and the government to be clean, be clear, follow the Constitution, get out of the dictatorial tendencies.
Thank you, Honorable Sabiti. Major, finally, many times we hear that the fights in the opposition are engineered by the NRM, and that you're very happy as NRM when you see the opposition struggling, they are butting heads all over. It makes you very, very happy. Also, the allegations that the money that's used to divide the opposition comes from your camp. Your response, and we take that as your conclusion as well.
No, that's not true. We are a law-abiding party. We wish all our people to participate in their own way, and we believe that Article 1 power belongs to the people is supreme, and people choose. And that's why I was happy with my friend not offering a presidential candidate, because, Judith, you will help me here. Isn't it about 170 people who picked presidential?
About 177 or so.
177 who picked nomination form. Imagine how much government would spend if all these 177 had fielded their candidates. So those who picked and didn't field, we are happy for them. And because the more they field, it becomes disruptive and very uneconomical. So if my friend here is one of the 177 who picked and did not come, it's okay. It is good for the country. And that is why even in the legislation, there's a price tag put 20 million, so that these 20 million shillings could weed out the unserious candidates. Imagine if 177 had fielded as per the forms picked. So for us, we don't interfere in other parties. Those are hearsay, those are Rugamu. Parties to sort out themselves, and we feel it. So we hope, therefore, this campaign going on, issues that will shape are really issues that affect the people. And we wish our friends to articulate their issues. We articulate ours. Power belongs to the people. I hope in the final analysis, because of our performance, the people will vote NRM.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our conversation. But just so you know, officially campaigns begin on Monday, so it's going to be quite a beehive of activity. And here on the KFM VPN, we are following closely, and we'll be bringing you all these conversations every Saturday. My name is Judith Atim. Thank you very much to my guest, retired Major Whit Paula, Director, External Affairs, NRM Secretariat, Honorable Jack Sabiti, National Chairperson, Forum for Democratic Change, Dr. Bernard Chankara, Public Policy Analyst, member of the Democratic Front Party, also aspiring MP for Kilak South, and last but not least, Dr. Judith Nalukwago, NUP Secretary for Professionals and flag bearer, LC5 Woman Councillor Machindi West. We've been talking about the issues that will influence the 2025-26 political campaigns in Uganda. And to all of you who've tuned in, thank you very much. Join us next Saturday for another edition of the KFM VPN. From me to all of you, it is have a happy weekend.